Sir Harry Edward Kane saves England. Meanwhile, Belgium pull off an extraordinary and controversial comeback over Senegal. The US advance, but at a major cost. Tottenham's transfer insanity reaches new heights, and Oliver Glasner does the unthinkable. This is DMAC Daily. Guys, I'm a little overwhelmed here. So much has gone down in the last 24 hours on the pitch, in the transfer market, in the managerial market. Madness everywhere I look. But we kick things off with World Cup news first. And it's coming. No, it's not. Look. Hate Watch unsuccessful today. It is what it is, but we will be there at the Azteca in a few days' time. Viva Mexico! No, but in all seriousness, Thomas Tuchel and his England side are feeling relieved today following a late come-from-behind victory over the Democratic Republic of Congo, with the Three Lions skipper and talisman Harry Kane coming in clutch with a second-half brace. His 5th goal of the tournament, his 13th in all World Cups now, overtaking Pele today. Not bad, son. As for the performance of England, though, and yeah, it wasn't great, was it? Granted, their opponents today were no chumps. This DR Congo team already made history this tournament, holding Portugal to a stalemate and then making it out of the group stages for the first time in the country's history. So a landmark occasion today, coming up against another powerhouse nation. Now, considering the fact that they'd had success with their low block counter-attacking style and the fact that England had struggled to break down this kind of tactical setup, think of Ghana, even Panama to a degree, this was always going to be a competitive matchup. Despite the vast difference in value between the two teams on paper, and 6 minutes in, the underdogs stunned the English. Sepenga was found in space, he takes a touch and then lasers one into the near post. Another poor error from Pickford though. He's not having a great tournament, just quietly. Same thing couldn't be said up the other end of the pitch though. Lionel Impasi was going crazy today. He was rage baiting Bellingham with some of those stops. Kane was also denied. Meanwhile, Wan-Bissaka came up with an unreal goal line clearance. It was a frustrating 45 minutes or so for England, and it could have been worse had Vissa not fluffed his lines, hitting the post from inside the 6-yard box. How he would live to rue that miss, because England kept pushing in that second half. More Impasi heroics in goal, but 74 minutes in, substitute Gordon floated one into the danger zone, with Kane pulling away from his man and dispatching a brilliant header. Wasn't all that much pace on the delivery too, so he did really well to generate the power, although Impasi will be disappointed with that right hand. And 10 minutes after that, Kane was back at it again, picking up the ball on the edge of the box, 2 quick touches, bang, an absolute rocket. Clutch Kane carrying his country to victory. Was it great football? No, bar that second half performance v Croatia, they haven't played well all tournament and struggled to deal with a good but not elite DR Congo side today. I know Impasi came up with 5 spectacular saves. On another day, England probably find an easier path to victory, but issues still persist. Defensively, there seems to be a real vulnerability at times. All 4 games, we've seen major lapses in concentration, and from an attacking standpoint, still lacking in the chance creation department. Without Bellingham and Kane's heroics, there's a real inconsistency in the final third. Out wide in particular just hasn't been good enough all tournament. And I know Gordon made an impact off the bench today, providing 2 assists, but like both of those goals were all dependent on Kane's individual brilliance there. So let's be real here, we're yet to really see that front 3, front 4 truly gel. The positive angle though is that you've got England's greatest ever forward operating at the peak of his powers. With a guy like Kane in your team, even when you play poorly, you're always in with a chance. Although I do think it's going to take a colossal effort to get past Mexico at the Azteca with the overwhelming home crowd, the altitude factor, and on top of that, this Mexico team is on fire. 4 games, 4 wins, 0 goals conceded. They've got ballers in attack, a superstar emerging in midfield. Defensively, Aguirre has got this backline so organized. There's a real collective consensus that something special is in the works there. So England will have to improve dramatically in order to get past this current Mexico team. Although with a manager like Tuchel, a man who's renowned for delivering in tournament football, remember this guy won a Champions League with a front 3 of Havertz, Mount and Werner. So I assume he's got a plan in the works for this epic tie. Speaking of epic ties, and Belgium v Senegal, pure cinema, with the Belgian Red Devils producing a late fight back to take this match to extra time, where they'd inevitably go on to win in the most dramatic fashion too. A 125th minute spot kick to send Senegal packing. The latest goal scored in World Cup history, the biggest comeback of the 2026 World Cup. Incredible scenes, just unbelievable stuff. A result few would have anticipated, because prior to this match, both teams had largely underwhelmed in the group stages. Granted, Senegal had a very difficult group and pulled off a huge victory over Iraq to qualify, whilst Belgium's also hit their opponents from 5 in the final match day, which saw them top the group. But still, they faced heavy criticism for their lethargic and uninspiring performances in their opening 2 games, which is why many, myself included, didn't fancy them to get past Senegal today. And in that first half, it was largely one-way traffic. Diarra gave Senegal the lead after 25 minutes, reacting quickest after Sarr's header came back off the post. And from there, Belgium looked slow and devoid of any desire to win this match. Then, just 5 minutes into the second half, Sarr produced a moment of pure brilliance, racing in behind, taking the Akate's pass on his chest and smashing the ball past Courtois. The technique and composure to pull that off was crazy. His 4th goal of the tournament. At 2-0, this game looked done, especially because Belgium had already taken off Doku and De Bruyne by that point, with De Bruyne substituted earlier than he had ever been at a World Cup. Pack it up, Unk. It felt like the symbolic end of an era. The once golden generation were going out looking exhausted and completely out of ideas. But out of nowhere, Big Rom, who hadn't done all that much since coming off the bench at half-time, managed to give Belgium a lifeline, reacting quickest to another old-timer, Thomas Meunier's cross, finishing brilliantly on his weaker right foot for a player who has been widely criticized over the years for his performances at major tournaments, particularly the World Cup. This was a big moment for Lukaku. It renewed the team's belief, and just 3 minutes later, it got even better. Trossard whipping a ball into the danger area, finding the outstretched header of Yuri Tielemans, looping it into the back of the net after a horrible misjudgment from Senegal's backup keeper Dior, who was filling in at the expense of injured Mendy. So on to extra time we go, and of course, major drama would soon ensue. This match looked destined for spot kicks, but in the 115th minute, Moreira crosses into the 6-yard box. Kamara attempts to reach the ball, making contact with Tielemans, resulting in a very lengthy VAR review before the referee controversially pointed to the spot. I say that because opinions on the validity of this call are mixed. Many are adamant it was a stone wall, others believe it was a disgraceful call. What is it with Senegal and copping late controversial penalties, man? Personally, I can see why it was given, like there is contact, even if it was clearly unintentional, but it's also so harsh. If I'm Senegalese, my head's on Mars, especially considering the delay to make the decision and the fact that it occurred so late in the game. It reminded me of one of my most painful football memories 20 years ago, the Socceroos v Italy, copping a contentious pen at the death in a World Cup. It is an abysmal fate I don't wish on anyone. Tielemans then, like Totti in 06, was clinical from 12 yards out and scored a great penalty from the skipper, completing his brace and sending Belgium through. Senegal will be devastated. They'll be fuming, like they should have won this game comfortably, but switched off in the last couple minutes and paid the price. As for Belgium, they survived, but let's be real, guys, this wasn't convincing. The football gods simply chose them today. Staying in World Cup news, and the US men's national team have reached the round of 16 in a 2-0 victory over Bosnia and Herzegovina. However, it wasn't all smiles for Pochettino, as his star striker Balogun was controversially shown red and will almost certainly miss their round of 16 tie between Belgium, which is a bit of a shame for Balogun because this was setting up to be his day for all the right reasons. In a tight, nervy knockout game with Bosnia making the contest physical and as awkward as possible, Balogun once again looked like the difference maker for the US. He had already seen one goal ruled out offside in the first half, but just before the break, he eventually got his moment with the ball popping up to him. He finished neatly with his left foot to put the host nation 1-0 up, sending the home crowd and the entire country into pure ecstasy. A fitting player to deliver the goods. For years, one of the big questions around the US national team was whether they had a proper center forward capable of deciding games at this level. In 2026, Balogun has answered that. He now has 3 goals at this World Cup, putting him level with Landon Donovan's 2010 tally and just one behind Bert Patenaude's tournament record of 4 way back in 1930. Balogun's already a national hero at this point. He almost had another on the stroke of halftime, but then came the controversy. In the 64th minute, Balogun was sent off after a VAR review for a coming together involving Bosnia's Muharemovic. Now, if you only see the freeze frame image here, then you'd be convinced, yeah, that's a horrific challenge. He definitely has to go. But if you actually watch the full replay, they both go for the ball and Balogun just happens to land his foot on the opponent's ankle. It's just a really unfortunate situation. Like, there's no malice, not even an attempt to make a tackle from Balogun there. It's just a freak accident. A lot of people immediately brought up the Messi foul too, which didn't result in a red, but nonetheless, Balogun was sent off. Luckily for the US, it wouldn't cost them on the day, with Malik Tillman's free kick getting them over the line. Absolutely dreadful goalkeeping, by the way. You've got to save that, surely. But that was that. The US advanced. Could you imagine the chaos that would have unfolded if the US went on to lose this game? That could have legit caused World War III. But dumb jokes aside, this win won't nearly feel as sweet for the US because they're now without their top scorer in the round of 16. I don't foresee FIFA overruling this decision either. I know Pepe can do a job up top, but he can't replicate what Balogun specifically brings to this team with his clever runs, pace, and technical ability, causing havoc in the channels. So a big loss, but I still see the US beating Belgium. I think they're better in every area of the pitch, particularly in midfield. Adams and McKennie have bossed every game. We head now to transfer news. And what on earth is happening at Tottenham Football Club, man? £185 million dropped in the space of 24 hours. 2 club record transfers smashed in that same period of time. Yesterday, it was Mateus Fernandes, with Tottenham agreeing an £85 million deal for the West Ham midfielder. And now they've reached an agreement with Newcastle to sign Sandro Tonali in a deal that could rise to £100 million. Adding to the madness in North London, they're also selling one of the best young talents on the entire planet, Luka Vuskovic, to Brighton. So much to discuss here, but first things first, let's run through the Tonali details. Spurs will pay an initial £92.5 million for the Italian international, with another £7.5 million in add-ons linked to multiple Champions League qualifications. And according to The Telegraph, Tonali is set to earn around £300,000 per week in North London, which would make him the club's highest paid player. He's their 6th signing of the summer window now, following Fernandes for £85 million, Van Hecke for £52 million, alongside free agents Senesi, Robertson, and Dubravka. For a club that finished 17th in back-to-back Premier League seasons, this is an enormous change in posture. The De Zerbi rebuild is taking shape at rapid speed. Now, if I were a Spurs fan, I'd be buzzing. Tonali's a real statement signing. This guy was linked with all the big clubs. He's already in the category of elite midfielder. For him to commit to the Spurs project is massive. In saying that, I think Spurs are making a huge mistake letting Vuskovic go. This guy's ceiling is astronomically high. This is akin to Arsenal selling a young Saliba following his successful loan spell at Marseille. Clearly, De Zerbi didn't fancy him because I assumed Spurs would look to build their backline around him for the next decade and beyond. This guy was a colossus at Westerlo and then Hamburg, a Team of the Year recipient at 19 in the Bundesliga. I know he's not the quickest, but I think this is a questionable move, selling to another Premier League club for only £50 million. I guess the rationale here is they already have a lot of depth in the centre-back department, and they definitely need to make some sales. He's also unproven in the Prem at this stage, so it's an enormous feat in that context. It's worth noting Spurs also retain a 20% sell-on clause, as well as matching rights for any potential future sales. So maybe down the line, they'll look to buy him back, but it's definitely a big call regardless. Heading back to Newcastle real quick, and they're reportedly looking to replace Tonali with Spurs' own Archie Gray, but according to Fabrizio Romano, an opening bid has been rejected. On a more successful note for the Tyneside-based club, and it appears they've got their Gordon replacement, signing Hoffenheim youngster Bazumana Toure for €50 million, fresh off of a breakout season in the Bundesliga. And last, but certainly not least, we got to talk about the managerial situation involving Nottingham Forest, because this is absolutely mind-blowing stuff. As we all know, the circus at Mr. Marinakis' club is like few others in world football, particularly when it comes to managerial casualties. Vitor Pereira arrived in February as the 4th manager of the season already, with the club in the midst of a relegation battle. Now, he managed to course correct, guiding his side to 16th place in the table alongside a Europa League semi-final. So, all things considered, he did pretty well and was fully expected to be at the helm next season. However, a break clause stipulated in his contract allowed the club to terminate his deal by June 30th. Forest have since done exactly that, with fresh details emerging that Pereira was sacked via email at 11:58 p.m. on June 30th. No phone call, not even a text. That is the most Marinakis thing I've ever read, but it gets crazier with the news that Oliver Glasner is set to become their 5th manager in the space of a year. Now, I cannot emphasize enough just how insane this is. If you're not aware, these two clubs despise one another. Palace fans in particular hate Forrest because of a UEFA fallout last year where Palace were stripped of their Europa League spot with Forrest taking it. There's already bad blood between these clubs. Now, Glasner stepped down from the Palace job this past season, ending his spell in legendary fashion, right? Having accumulated 3 trophies in a year, bowing out with a Conference League title, many anticipated he would look to make the jump to a modern-day European giant in the summer. But the decision to now join Forrest is simply unbelievable. Like, I don't get it. Why would Glasner throw out his entire Palace reputation for a club that is of the same caliber? I understand Forrest in the 80s were a European giant, but in 2026, like, Palace are on the same level here. In fact, they're the ones in Europe this season, not Forrest. Glasner is also a frequently outspoken manager too, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this relationship with dictator Marinakis go sour relatively quickly. Just a bizarre situation all around. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.